welcome back to Inside College Basketball Now with John Rothstein. We are pleased to be joined by Auburn head coach Bruce Pearl. And Coach, first matter of business, what was the Pearl family vacation spot this summer?
You know what? For the first time in 11 years as a head coach at Auburn, I actually took 10 straight days off. Wow. And Brandy and I went on a beautiful cruise with some friends in the Mediterranean. So we went to the south of Italy, and it was just really, really relaxed and extremely enjoyable. I've got one more week of a trip to Israel coming up, and then it's back to work.
Now, the time is so much more taxing on college coaches in this current climate than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. You're somebody now who has grandchildren. How much harder is it to balance family and basketball in this current climate?
Well, John, listen, to whom much is given, much is expected. Okay, so we are incredibly highly paid right now, but understand that. Think about most coaches, almost all coaches, when they got started into coaching. They were coaching in high school. They were coaching at lower levels. They were like, coaching is not a very highly paid profession, except at the very, very tippity top. We wanted to be teachers. We wanted to be servants.
Yes.
And then we got good at it, and obviously it happened. So there will be not 1 ounce of a complaint from me. And I have to preface my answer because I can't complain because of how richly we are rewarded by the work that we do. What's different now is when the season's over, that's when our rebuilding our roster season begins.
Right.
And literally, we weren't done when you wait for Todd Pettiford to decide whether he's going to be in the draft or out of the draft. It's the early June before we were even finished. And yet we're still dabbling overseas to see about one more throughout the summer while we're coaching the guys in the summer. So basically, you're looking at these 2 weeks right now in August. Okay, these 2 weeks right now in August are pretty much the time when all the coaches are sort of done, or sometime before school starts. We used to have a little bit of time in May. That's gone. So we work about 11 and a half months a year.
And you've had to work that long to make Auburn into the program that it's become. 2 Final Fours during your tenure, the only time Auburn has went to the Final Four in program history. What has it been like for you with the seat you have to watch the evolution of Auburn basketball?
John, it's been great. It's been, look, I'm a man of faith, and I do believe God had a plan. And to put me here at this time, I go to work every day, try to reward Auburn for giving me the opportunity to sort of resurrect my own career. I got a second chance. I've tried to make the most of it. And it's a blessing. You know how grateful I am to my country for the opportunity to be a Jewish basketball coach in Auburn, Alabama, while we're fighting anti-Semitism all over the world and increasing even in this country, which is hard to understand at all, but it exists. At the same time, I don't focus on that. My focus on is for all of my players, for you, for me. You know what? You work hard, and you got to put yourself in position to be able to do great things, and I'm grateful from that standpoint. But it's very gratifying to have done it at Auburn, a place that really hasn't had much history and tradition. We've had our moments with some great coaches like Cliff Ellis or Sonny Smith and some great players like Charles Barkley and guys like that. But to have Auburn now as I would say a top 10 program is it's extremely rewarding. And I'm grateful for Auburn for giving us all the things that we have needed to be successful.
And Auburn's rise has coincided with the rise of the SEC in basketball. You remember when I started doing this 20 years ago at the national level, we would cover the SEC and we would say, okay, Bruce Pearl's at Tennessee, Billy Donovan's at Florida, and John Calipari's at Kentucky. And that's about it from the SEC. What was it like for you, given your history and roots in the conference, to see 14 teams from the SEC in the NCAA tournament?
I loved it. And I love this league. Mike Slive got this thing started. We're an everything conference. SEC dominates intercollegiate athletics, and it's a strong statement. But I think recently in football and baseball and many of the women's sports and golf, and it's just been incredible. We were way behind in men's basketball for a long, long time, and there was just a greater commitment to bring in better coaches, to bring in to invest in the NIL, to invest in facilities, so on and so forth. And the thing I loved about the SEC, we were an easy target in a sense that, we were predicted to be really good, but you guys could talk all year long about, like just like SEC football. Well, how good is it really?
Right.
How good is it really? Well, you know what? It was really good at the beginning. It was really good at the end. It was unbelievable in the middle. It was unbelievable at the end. I mean, we delivered.
Yeah.
We delivered all the way to the Final Four. And I'm really, really, proud to have obviously been a part of that. And I do, I'm not at all big on legacy. I'm really not. But when you get to be 65, 66, you start to begin to think about that.
Yeah.
I want part of my legacy to have been the graduating student athletes. Like, we've graduated 44 kids in the last 11 years. Now think about that, John. You almost would say, I would say, that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to start comparing us to others, but I would say not many people can even come close to doing that. And I'm really, really proud of that. So we're still trying to do it the old-fashioned way. But part of my legacy also would be being outspoken in love of my country and being willing to take the platform that I've taken in my support of Israel, so on and so forth, as a basketball coach here at Auburn, and then to have been part of the resurrection of men's basketball in the SEC, to be amongst those coaches that had something. Rick Barnes is clearly in that, John Calipari, obviously in that conversation. And now the young coaches that we've got in the league, guys like Todd Golden, who are continuing to carry that mantra. It was very satisfying.
And it was obviously satisfying to take Auburn to the Final Four again, but the dynamics of your two trips were very different. Last year, you were a 1 seed and a favorite. In 2019, you came out of nowhere to beat Kansas, North Carolina, and then Kentucky as a little bit of an underdog. How are the two dynamics different from a head coaching perspective?
Boy, it's a great question. So 2019, I thought I was one of the few years I felt like we underachieved. We finished 5th in the league. And we actually went to Kentucky with 5 games left to go in the SEC, still with a chance to make some noise, and Kentucky ran us out of the gym. That same Kentucky team we beat to go to the Final Four, but they had beaten us twice during the regular season. It's hard to beat a good team 3 times. That team got hot. It absolutely got hot at the end of the year, and no team in the history of the tournament has ever beaten those 3 teams in a row. Arizona had beaten those 3 teams on their way to a national championship, never back to back to back. And then we get to the Final Four, and it's Virginia, it's Texas Tech, it's a decent Michigan State team. I mean, there's nobody there that is a prohibitive favorite. We go in there as a 5, and we're as good as anybody. But for a couple of bad breaks at the end, we would have gone to the Final Four and played in that national championship game. It didn't turn out that way. All right, 2025. We have a great team. We arguably have the best team in college basketball. We were the regular season champions last year. As the number 1 seed, Auburn was the regular season champion. And you know what? It doesn't get talked about a lot like that. Because regular season coaches will tell you we're grinders. And to win a regular season championship versus a tournament championship, sometimes it even matters even more because you were good from the beginning to the end, and at the end you stood at the top. But to have 4 number 1s at the Final Four, whoever the 5th best team in college basketball was last year, there was no argument to put them in the Final Four, ahead of Houston, Duke, Florida, and Auburn. And so it was chalk, but it was chalk with the best players and the best teams.
Yeah.
And some of the best coaches, okay? And it was just really, really cool. And I thought, again, the games delivered. We open up against Florida, and we have a 9-point lead at halftime. And then, Florida's bigs eventually wear us down a little bit, and Walter Clayton was the best player on the floor.
Yeah.
And by the way, when we look at the NBA draft, I don't know how Walter Clayton could get picked behind all those kids that went in front of him. I think he's going to wind up being a great pro. And then, of course, the incredible matchup between Duke and Houston in that next game, unbelievable drama. And then the championship game, delivered. The Final Four delivered this year.
No, it definitely did. And you had a very tough loss to Florida, which you mentioned. They pulled away in the second half. But when you hit that disappointment, when the final buzzer goes off, you walk down and you have to shake the hand and embrace somebody that you single-handedly brought in the power conference basketball in Todd Golden a little over a decade ago. What was that moment like?
Well, it was special. It was like it'd be like almost like Steven being down there coaching Florida and having my son beat my ass. And it was look, I promise you, I was happy for him and I was proud of him. And I still am. So that was, it was, look, getting there and not winning it was difficult. We would have liked to have gotten to the championship game. But obviously I was happy for Todd. And look, John, about midway through January, after they came to Auburn and beat us in the middle of January, I was publicly saying Florida's the best team in college basketball. And I wasn't doing it to put pressure on Todd.
Yeah.
You know me. I was doing it because that's what I thought. I'm going to tell you what I think, whether it's politically correct or not. That'd make me right. And, boy, they really were. They had a dominating front line, incredible depth and unbelievable size and physicality. And the three guards all got drafted.
Yeah.
And three guards that got drafted. We had Janai Broom went 35. And I had 6 kids at the NBA Summer League, which was so much fun. Having 6 kids at the Summer League. And guys that, were Division II guys or mid-major guys that worked their way up and really became great, great players. It was very, very satisfying. So, no, it was a special Final Four. I enjoyed this Final Four, I think, more than 19, because 19 was such a tragic loss. This one here, I felt like this team went as far as it could go. Even though it was a number 1 team, I felt like this team got the most out of what we had.
Well, that brings me to my next question. Even though you were a 1 seed this past season, does the Virginia loss, because of the way that it ended, still hit deeper for Bruce Pearl in terms of Final Four defeats?
Oh yeah, no comparison. Yeah, no comparison. To have the lead, to be fouling late, to have a couple things go against it was a perfect storm. But let me tell you, John, I'll say this, and again, this goes back to my faith. We had given God the glory in our victories all the way to get to the Final Four. We had, okay? We weren't calling God like we did this year, but even back in 19, we were doing it. And I told the team after that heartbreaking loss in the last seconds, as the guys were walking off the court, and of course it's a half a mile to get to the locker room, and God bless if there was ever a trash can or anything that was in the way, it was getting kicked and knocked over or thrown. There were tears. And you go into that locker room, and what do you do? How do you talk to your team? Except my message was real simple. I said, we gave him the glory in the victory. We're going to give the glory in defeat. God put us in this position to be the team that would lose this tragically and handle it. And give Virginia the credit for making the shots, making the free throws, making the plays, and not focusing on a couple of calls that went against us late. I said, that's part of the reason why we got this far. That's why Auburn got this far. To be able to teach young kids, you know what? We had our shot, and we didn't finish the job. And Virginia was a great champion. And to handle it the other way, I honestly felt that way. That's why. Because you know what? I don't think every program and every student out there, I think most coaches would have handled it fine. But you can't expect 18, 19, 20-year-old kids to come out of the locker room and give the opponent credit and not blame this or that. And our kids did that, and that's something I'm extremely proud of.
Well, and you're going to continue to be proud of every team that you coach, and you turn the page after every tough defeat because there's a new season to get ready for and a roster to get ready for that season. What are your initial thoughts on the roster you put together for 25-26?
John, I like these kids. This has been a hardworking group. I would make the case that there's no team in college basketball that lost more than we did. I only returned 1 player. It's Hot Pettiford. 1 player. Yeah. And I love my freshmen. I think the transfers are all going to have impact. I think we've made good decisions. I think the league is going to be your top 3 are going to be Florida and Kentucky and Arkansas. I think those will be the 3 top teams in our league. I think the next 3 or 4 teams could be Tennessee, Alabama, ourselves. I would sort of, I'm putting us in there around 6th or 7th with who else? Maybe Vanderbilt, maybe
Texas, Ole
maybe
Miss.
Ole Miss, Texas. I think Missouri could be pretty good. Not to necessarily leave anybody out, but look, somebody said something the other day. I said, we got a chance to, we could finish 6th or 7th, and you know what? That could be good enough for the Sweet 16.
Right.
Look at Ole Miss last year.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where Ole Miss finished, but it was in the middle of our league, right?
Yep.
And at the end, they're playing Michigan State to play us in the Elite Eight. And I love to root for the SEC, but Ole Miss was in the middle of our league. They were probably would have been a harder win for us than Michigan State necessarily was. Boy, Tom Izzo, what a job he did this year with that team. John, that was a good team, a hard-playing team, a physical team, but that was one of the least talented Michigan State teams I've seen in a while. And yet they won the Big Ten, and the Big Ten was good.
Yeah.
I mean, Purdue and Michigan and there were several. Illinois, that was a good league. You talk about not getting older but getting better. Tom Izzo did an amazing job. But Ole Miss would have been a more dangerous team for us to play, and they finished in the middle league. So,
what type of a jump can we expect for Tahad Pettiford as a sophomore?
Well, the issue is going to be he's going to get all the attention. And last year, as a freshman, it was sort of a perfect storm for him to come in and play off of all those seniors and the veterans that we had. And he did an amazing job. Don't forget, Tahad Pettiford was a kid that was ranked, let's say, 20 to 25, maybe even 25 to 30 when it comes to your top freshmen. And you probably put him amongst 5 freshmen last year as far as the most effective players. Not necessarily about drafted, but to me, he's on the top 5 in the freshmen last year, with Cooper Flagg obviously being number 1. And so he had a great, great year. More will be expected of him. He's going to have to take and make more tougher shots, be more of a playmaker. He'll probably turn the ball over a little bit more this year because I'm going to ask him to do more. His leadership is going to be something that he's going to be have to be more vocal, so on and so forth. But we've got pieces. I'll tell you, one of the things I think we've got pieces, but can we put it together in a short period of time? One of the things that I don't like about our game right now, the NIL thing, we got to sort of find a way to get us all closer to being on the same page so that we all have more similar resources. And right now we still aren't there. When the ball goes up right now, if Ohio State's going to put $25 to $30 million in their football team like they did last year, going to win a national championship. And by the way, that's not cheating. That's just commitment.
Right.
Good for Ohio State. That's not a criticism. That's a compliment. If Kentucky this year has got the roster they have, and they've invested more than anybody else in our league, and probably 2 to 3 times as much as some programs in our league, how do you compete in that environment? And then you add transfer portal with NIL together, and now you got a real problem. And you got free agency every year. You teach the kids to flee, not fight, but at the same time, do not blame the kids. When a kid doesn't stay in the program and he leaves your program and he winds up getting more money someplace else, don't want the fan base to know he's not loyal. I don't know, John. You have a contract and you probably have years in your contract, but if you were in the last year of your contract and you are up for being able to go somewhere else and somebody was going to offer you twice what they're paying you right now, I think you owe it to your family to look at it. So do not blame the kids. But this idea of the NCAA not being able to make its own rules, and somehow we're finding that okay, it's against the kids' freedom of movement or whatever, his civil rights to say you can't transfer without any sort of penalty. I mean, there is rules in business where you have no non-compete clauses.
Right.
And things like that. So why aren't we able to take that to court and win that? Whoever were the lawyers for the NCAA years ago that were advising them, those guys should all be fired and be called out for giving the NCAA such poor advice about how to handle this NIL situation. We were late to the party taking care of our student athletes. And the fact that we no longer have the kind of transfer rules. Look, a one-time transfer exemption is great. Maybe a great. We're not graduating kids anymore, John.
I
We're
know.
not. And guess what? It's our responsibility as coaches and teachers and administrators in the NCAA and at these universities to be able to create rules where we are getting kids to graduate. We used to worry about that. Kids would go to school for 4 years and they couldn't read or write. What was wrong with that? Now we're not even talking about APR or graduation rates, and it's because the rules have been set up to fail.
Well, these are the rules of engagement for now, which are the rules that everybody has to play by, and they're the rules that you use to put together your team. One of the obvious highlights in terms of your newcomers is Keyshawn Hall, who was a walking bucket last year for UCF. How big of a piece of the pie offensively will he have for Auburn?
Keyshawn Hall is a walking bucket. That's the best way to call it. I mean, he's hard to stop now. He can go by you. He can finish. He should shoot more free throws than anybody in the SEC because you have to foul him to stop it. And here's the thing. He came to Auburn to try to win championships and to try to recognize that he could do things on both sides of the ball, that he could be as big a factor on the defensive end as the offensive end. So I think you're going to see growth from Keyshawn Hall in the way of maturity, in the way of leadership, in the way of impacting the game on both sides of the ball. I think the other Keyshawn Murphy, who comes over Mississippi State did a good job of developing him. He's an Alabama kid that kind of always wanted to come to Auburn for years and years. And, wind up being where I was loaded on the front line, never was much of an opportunity. There was an opportunity when we graduated 3-4. We graduated our entire front line. He's a guy that can make a difference. He can stretch the defense. He can score inside and out. I think we got some real good pieces, and I like my young kids. So we're going to play 9 or 10 guys. We're going to share it. The sum of our parts, I think, is really strong. I think the other thing too is I've been able to keep my coaching staff together, which is incredible. Stephen Pearl and John, you called it. You've given him the recognition before. He's my defensive coordinator. He's my associate head coach. He just does a phenomenal job. Mike Burgermaster is my offensive coordinator. One of the best offensive minds in college basketball. He's a young kid that I hired from Miami as a manager and just grew within the program. Those guys are going to be 8 years, 11 years. And Ira Bowman and you've known Ira for a long time. He was the Ivy League Player of the Year back at Penn. Great recruiter, great developer of players, one of the best individual workout guys that we've had. All those guys that are in the NBA from Auburn, with the exception of maybe Jabari Smith, who was supposed to get there anyways. Ira developed those kids. Corey Williams is a great guy in retention and recruiting. The staff has had everything to do with our success.
Well, in addition to the two Keyshawns, Keyshawn Murphy and Keyshawn Hall, which other newcomers do you think will have the biggest roles for Auburn?
Well, I think Filip Juric from Serbia is going to be an every night guy. I think Sebastian Williams, as a freshman, is going to be a really productive player on the front line. We got a big 7-footer in Mecca that is way better than we thought he was going to be. He might be a year away from having impact. Elijah Freeman, the Division II player, he was one of the best players in Division II. Like we had Chaney Johnson last year. Elijah Freeman's a pro. And it may be 2 years before he gets there, but he's got great upside, great length. He's got that NBA body, what they're all looking for. He can really shoot it. Caden Magwood, the little freshman, is going to give. He could play with Tahad. He's that good. And but when Tahad's not out there point guard, he'll be a point guard, a very, very talented player. Kevin Overton from Texas Tech was their sixth man. He brings a level of toughness and physicality that we didn't have. Simon Walker really shoots it from the state of it. I like my group. I definitely like the pieces. I think we got a chance to be competitive again.
Well, now we get to the topic of our interviews, which usually requires like a stiff vodka, even though it's still the morning here, and that's your non-conference schedule. Houston in Birmingham, 3 in the Players era, guaranteed, or Oregon and Michigan. Will Wade and NC State in the ACC SEC Challenge. At Arizona, Purdue and Indianapolis. Is there anything else of note I'm missing?
No, you got it.
Yeah.
Just we're playing Memphis and Oklahoma State in the exhibition. Yeah. Oh, by the way, and then we go to the SEC.
Yeah.
So, you know what? If you're gonna say you're a top 10 program, you got to act like it. You just got to act like it. We work so hard, John, to be a team that those teams in non-conference said they wanted to play. Like, I look at Matt Painter. Matt Painter comes to Birmingham with a Purdue team that just finished second in the nation in the Final Four because he thought it would be a good game for his team. And Auburn coming back to Indianapolis, same thing with Kelvin Sampson at Houston. Same thing now with Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. Setting up these games with teams that now look at Auburn as a draw, or a team that's going to help them get ready for conference play, because we're going to play hard, we're going to run good stuff, and we'd be a good win or a real challenge. So it's what we worked really hard to get our program to this spot.
And another thing, too, you played the hardest non-conference schedule in the history of Auburn basketball last year, and it also led to a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. When you went through the NCAA tournament with a geographic advantage, playing in Lexington, playing in Atlanta, how much difference did it make when you wound up getting to a Final Four?
It made a big difference. I mean, I think especially Atlanta. Lexington, not so much. We played a great Creighton team. But had Creighton not upset Louisville had, I want to say, 15,000, 16,000 in Rupp Arena for that game.
Right.
I mean, if we'd have played Louisville in Rupp, there'd have been 18,000 Louisville fans there. So we didn't get a great first round matchup there in Lexington. But once we got past that, we had the regional Atlanta, and the regional Atlanta helped us. But we were better than Michigan and Michigan State. We were a better team, and we played really well in those games. And by the way, Michigan and Michigan State both played well, and we were able to come out on top. So hey, that's why the number 1 seed. That's why you play that schedule, and that's why you are the number 1 seed, to be able to have that advantage. And you didn't hear anything from either Michigan or Michigan State in the way of a complaint. They in fact complimented the following that came there, and they recognized, hey, you want to play closer to home, be the 1 seed, not the 4 or the 5 seed.
I'm going to ask you a question now that I asked Jay Wright when he was still coaching at Villanova. I've asked Tom Izzo. I've asked Bill Self. Is it important to you when you stop coaching that your successor has ties to Auburn?
Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't I? Look, we worked really hard to build this program where it's at. It would certainly, make a great deal of sense. I've got a great staff right here, and Stephen Pearl is in position to be somebody that I know they would consider. Todd Golden was pretty darn good. I love to, people forget, but Steve Forbes and I worked together for 5 or 6 years, and Steve's one of the best coaches in the ACC. We don't have a lot of guys out there, and part of the reason, John, why I don't think we do is because guys have stayed with us for a long, long time. Guys, and that's good. Their families were happy here. I could have a lot of other coaches but my guys have been with me 10, 11 years, and you're beginning to see. You're beginning to see some young coaches being pretty successful that have left our program, and you're going to continue to see that in the future.
You're 65. You could obviously go on to do other things. You were in broadcasting before you went back to coaching. You were, memory serves correct, an executive in marketing at HT Hackney. How much longer do you want to do this?
Not that much longer, John. I think it's kind of a balance of life, of time, of work. I love Auburn. I truly do. Auburn's been unbelievable for us and our family. And part of the thing is I also want to do when I'm on top of my game. Mm-hmm. And we all coaches, we want to be on top of our game because we owe that to our players and our fans. And so we just as you get a little bit older, you kind of take it one day at a time.
Does going to a second Final Four reinvigorate you and make you hungrier to eventually break through and get to a Monday night and ultimately, hopefully, win a national title?
Honestly, not really. Not really, because I just think that I did win a Division II national championship in 1995. I did finish second in 1994. So I've been to the game a couple times. I just, if I have a good enough team to get there, then I want to try to get there. And if I don't, I want that team to do the best it can. I want that team to do the best it's capable of doing. It's no greater motivation having gotten close and not won a Division I national championship. That I want one really badly, but that's not the reason why.
All right, the next question I'm going to ask you is something that fascinates me as somebody who's covered college basketball for as long as I have. Coaches always focus on difficult losses in their career much more than great wins. Give me a non-Final Four loss in your coaching career that sticks with you to this day, and give me one win that really resonates for Bruce Pearl.
Man, you'd think I would have an answer on that, but I don't even really know. I think I lost at Butler one year at the buzzer to lose a regular season conference championship. And that was probably the most devastating regular season loss. I'm sure there are others, but that would clearly be one of them. Butler then came back and we beat them in the Horizon League tournament championship to go to the NCAA tournament. So we got it back about a week later, 2 weeks later. That was a tough one. And the toughest postseason loss? Was that what the second question?
No, just one win that really resonates and sticks with you, and one tough loss, other than the defeats in the Final Four.
Well, I mean, I think the national championship in '95 is one. We were down 18 at halftime to UC Riverside and came back and won the national championship. And I guess I'd have to say the weekend in Kansas City.
Yeah.
In 19, when we beat a great North Carolina team that was the number 1 seed, and then the number 2 seed Kentucky with 3 first-round draft picks and a great team, and without Chumo Kiki.
Yeah.
That was without our second best player. That was something else. So that weekend in Kansas City that weekend in Kansas City and the weekend in Atlanta last year were two of the best weekends we've had.
Well, let's wrap on this. How does Auburn become vintage Auburn by the time the 2026 NCAA tournament rolls around?
Well, I think we're going to be smaller. We're not going to be as good defensively. So no lead will be safe because we're going to be able to bang some shots, and you better play for 40 minutes because we're going to continue to come at you. At the same time, we're going to be harder to hold leads because we were big, strong, physical. We were really hard to score on in the half court. And this year that won't be the case just because we're not as big or physical or old. But we're going to be dangerous on the offensive end. I think this team's going to play a little faster than my teams in the past.
That's Bruce Pearl. 2 Final Fours at Auburn, going for another in 25-26. BP, appreciate a couple minutes, know how busy you are, and as always, look forward to staying connected along the way.
Okay, John. Nobody does it better. Thank you.
You got it. That's Auburn head coach Bruce Pearl. I'm John Rothstein, and this is Inside College Basketball Now.